Welcome to Basic Brewing Video. I'm James Spencer.
I'm Steve Wilkes.
Welcome to December. We've got something tasty for you today.
I think so.
And we're building on something that we did in a previous show. We did the Braggot show where we blended live a beer and a mead-based product.
A mead-based product. That's what people describe my meads as.
So what do we got here?
This is the Braggot. This is the Braggot, and this is a creme brulee. That's a milk stout creme brulee. But this guy is it's a light braggot that's made with a session ale, and I'm calling it a session braggot a session mead because it's not very high in alcohol. And I blended the two together. I primed it with a little honey, and I carbonated it, and this is the result. So let me know what you think.
Now this was we took this a step further in that you blended actually two separate
products.
Beings,
yes,
and into a bottling bucket, and then you primed that with some honey, and then you bottled it. So this is an actual bottled product.
Yes, and so the idea is that I had a mead that was finished. In other words, it had fermented down to 10, or maybe even a little below, very dry, and a light ale that had fermented down to about 10, maybe 10, 12, and rather than making the braggot where I put everything together and let it ferment together, I did them separately, blended them, then primed it and bottled. And this is the result.
It's very tasty. And if you want to go through the process that we did on selecting which beer and which mead product we put in there, listen to the Basic Brewing Radio episode that we did on that. And you can see which ones that we used. Now there was some concern after we recorded that show. Some were concerned that if you put a mead that was too sweet with a beer, that further fermentation would happen of the sugars in that mead. But I don't think you have to worry about. Obviously, you don't have to worry about it here because this is nicely carbonated. It's appropriately carbonated, and the mead was dry.
Right.
And the beer had finished, so there's not that concern of the yeast waking up and doing more work than they needed to.
Yeah, I think, it did raise eyebrows with me too when several of our listeners, emailed in and said, hey, I think you got a problem here. But my original premise was I've got two things that are completely fermented out. There's nothing really left to ferment unless you get a wild bacteria in there that kind of goes to work on those non-fermentables. And so, plus my experience of sparkling meads over the years informed me that this would be a safe thing to do, and it apparently is. Yeah. Now, maybe if we let this sit for another year and a half or something, I don't know. But it ain't going to last a year and a half, I can tell you.
No, you blended 1 gallon of mead, 1 gallon of beer, so this is going to go in a hurry, especially during the holiday season. Speaking of holidays,
what would you eat with this, Steve?
You might eat a milk stout creme brulee that I whipped up a little earlier. Well, let's go to Steve in the past and show how he made it.
All right, so I've got some stuff here that we're going to make creme brulee out of. And this is a milk stout creme brulee. There's no beer in it, but there are the specialty grains and hops that will make it beer-like. So here we go. These are the ingredients that are in this dish. We'll use 3 grams of James Spencer's homegrown Cascade hops. We'll use 2 ounces of chocolate malt and 2 ounces of black patent malt, and this will be crushed just like you do a specialty grain in an extract brew. We'll use 1 teaspoon of unsweetened cocoa powder, 1 tablespoon of vanilla extract, pure vanilla extract, or you could use a couple of vanilla beans if you wanted to do that. We'll use a 1/2 cup of sugar, which we'll cream with the eggs, and this is 6 egg yolks. We'll also use a 1/2 cup of milk and 2 cups of heavy cream, and this will combine to be the custard. So this is a creme brulee. We'll top it with a caramel crust. Here we go. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is crush these grains. If I had a grain mill, I might use that, but I don't have one handy. And for this small of an amount, this will work just fine. Get yourself a Ziploc bag, some kind of a little plastic bag. Spread out your grain just like this. Get a nice heavy rolling pin and just go to town. You don't want to turn this into flour, but you do want to crack everything open so you get all that kind of malty goodness out of these guys. And you just have to kind of gauge how it is. The next thing we need to do is to cream the eggs and sugar together. So I've got 6 egg yolks. I've separated them from the egg whites. Save the egg whites if you want to. You can make, omelets out of them. You can make meringue, whatever you need to do. Don't throw them away because they're valuable. You don't want to waste anything. This is a half a cup of sugar, just regular old table sugar. Put the two together. You can use an electric mixer, or you can do like I do and get a little workout and just cream these together. Now, look how dark yellow that is. The reason that's important is, as you'll watch, as I do this, they're going to turn a pale yellow. When the yolks become a pale yellow and they'll take on kind of a creamy consistency, you'll know that you're done. The next thing we need to do is just make our liquid, which is going to be cream, 2 cups, 1/2 cup of milk, tablespoon of vanilla extract, teaspoon of unsweetened cocoa powder, 3 grams of hops. I'd use whatever kind you like, but we're going for a little bit of hop flavor. So you don't want to use something that's not going to give you that nice little hop pop. And we're not getting any bitterness. We don't want bitter. Bitter's not good in this dish. So 3 grams of hops and 1 ounce of chocolate malt and 1 ounce of black patent malt. We'll give you the conversions to metric. Those have been crushed. We'll let this come up to 160 degrees. We'll hold it for a few minutes. This is exactly the same as using specialty grains in an extract beer. There we go. We've steeped our cream and milk mixture with our grains and hops. Next thing that we have to do is strain this. Now, you want to use, this is going to be a little messy. You got to be a little bit careful because it can splatter. So what I want to do is get all this goodness out of here. And we're just going to get this to filter on out. If you can get a fine mesh colander, kind of like this one, the finer the better in a way, because you don't want any of this debris to get down into your cream mixture, although it'll settle out. That looks pretty good right there. And you don't want to cram it through. Just let it drain kind of naturally. That is the cream mix that we'll use with our eggs and sugar, and that'll be the custard. All right, now what we have to do is make the custard. If there's a place that you can go wrong in this dish, this is it. But don't let that scare you. It's as easy to do. What you want to make sure you do is this. Keep in mind, this is a hot mixture. It's at about 150 degrees now. It's cooled a little bit. And you're going to blend this in with these eggs. Now, if you blend it too fast, you're going to scramble the eggs. You don't want scrambled eggs. So you have to temper the egg mixture with the hot cream. So what I'm going to do, the way I'm going to do this, if you have an electric mixer, this is easy. I don't. So I'm going to take a little bit, just an ounce maybe, and I'm going to blend it in. And what I'm doing is I'm tempering these egg yolks so that they will not curdle. They won't begin to cook. Well, they'll cook, but it'll be so fine you won't know it. Oops. So see how that's going? And you just want to keep adding a little at a time until they've had a chance to kind of catch up temperature-wise. And this is the same technique that you'd use like in making a hollandaise sauce, or in a way even like mayonnaise. So just let that come up, and when you've got about half of it in, you can kind of go ahead and kind of drizzle this in. I'm going to scrape in all those good little bits that came through. So the last thing we have to do before we pop these babies into the oven is this. I've got a casserole dish here. Any kind of a Pyrex baking dish kind of thing will work. I've filled the dish up with hot water up to about 3/4 of the level of the ramekins that I'm using. Of course, these need to be oven safe. These are little ramekins that are specially made for this kind of deal. And all I'm going to do is ladle these cups up to this line right here, and you can probably see that on camera. Just fill them up so that they won't boil over, you might say. And it won't boil, but. And this can be as messy or as neat as you are. I'm kind of messy sometimes. So we'll put this into an oven, 300 degrees Fahrenheit. Put it on the medium, right in the middle. And it should go for 35 to 40 minutes. Cookbooks will tell you to cook your creme brulees at 30 minutes at 300 degrees for 30 minutes. I've found that's not quite long enough. Maybe that's just how my oven cooks. So pay attention to how your oven cooks and the heat that you're actually getting out of your oven. For me, I find that they need to go about 35 minutes rather than 30. When it's done, the custard will kind of be jiggly in the center. It won't be liquid, but it won't be firm either. And you just have to kind of get used to doing it. You have to do it a couple times before you see how it works. But I'll show you when we pull it out of the oven. All right. Here are our creme brulees. They've been in the oven for 35 minutes at 300 degrees. You can see how they look. I kind of tap on them. See how that's, I'm going to try to get an example here for you. When I tap on this, see if you can get a shot. See how that's a little bit liquid looking? I mean, it's not liquid, but see how it's jiggly ever so slightly? And how annoying that clicking is? That means it's done. Now, look at this. It looks like kind of a mottled moonscape. That was the air bubbles that were on top. I've heard that fancy French chefs worry about those air bubbles. I don't worry about those air bubbles. It's going to be covered up with caramel anyway. So what we're going to do, this has been cooled we took it out of the oven, we cooled them down for about 30 minutes, then we put them in the refrigerator for hours. They need to become really set up firm. Now what we're going to do is we're going to top each one of these with about a tablespoon, maybe a little bit more, of sugar, just regular old table sugar. Gotta get the flame adjusted just right. This goes really fast and you gotta be careful. Also, it can be a little stinky because you're literally burning the sugar. All right, so this is our burnt cream. You can see how this kind of looks, and whew, boy, it smells like burnt sugar, but it's kind of that good burny smell. So I've caramelized the top of that sugar. Don't try to eat it right now, you'll burn your lips off. Let it settle out for 15, 20 minutes probably until it's, it'll set up and be very crispy and firm. But don't do it like hours ahead of your dinner party or whenever you're going to eat it, because eventually the caramel will become kind of soft and chewy. It won't be crispy, and you want it to be crispy when your guests dig into it.
So here we are.
Yep.
You showed us how to make this. Now, if you don't have hello. Wow. If you don't have a Bunsen burner or whatever that thing was, a propane torch or butane torch,
do it under the broiler.
In the oven.
In the oven. Just put it in the broiler and watch it really close, because boy, sugar will burn up on you in a hurry. But yeah. Put it in the broiler. Just be careful, because boy, you don't want to get hot sugar on your arm. No. It's not a good thing. No. So I made a lot of caramel here. I hope you can get through it. Oh yeah. So this is our milk stout creme brulee.
Boy, and that's pudding. That's pudding right there. You'd swear it had beer in it.
You'd swear it's a milk stout.
Oh my goodness. That's really good.
That's good.
Well, if Bill Cosby were to, this is a gel that Bill Cosby, I don't know if he would endorse it. It's got no beer in it.
It's splendiferous.
I love Bill Cosby. Some gel, but could you make some pudding pops out of this?
I don't see why not.
Wow, this is incredible.
Try this at a dinner party. Wow, your friends, all your beer friends, make this for them. It's super easy. Do a little blended braggot.
I'm gonna try it. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's happening. There you go.
There you go.
Well, we got something special planned for you at the end of the year. So stay tuned. We'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Happy brewing.
Happy brewing.
Come and visit us on the web. At basicbrewing.com, you can find archive lists of both our audio and video podcasts on home brewing. You can also find our DVDs, Extract Brewing and Partial Mashing, Stepping into All Grain, Low-Tech Lagering and Decoction Mashing, Introduction to Wine Kits, and our Basic Brewing Brewer's Logbook, where you can track and log up to 50 batches of beer. Drop us a line. We'd love to hear from you. Write to James at basicbrewing.com, Steve at basicbrewing.com, or just use the contact form on basicbrewing.com.
My brother Russell would love the creme brulee made out of the chocolate stout.